Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we're in the shop today. And before we go ahead and get started, I actually want to show you something. You guys can actually see that I've moved a bunch of stuff, cleaned a bunch of stuff up. And I can actually fully walk between both ends of my shop, from behind over the Corvette, through here, and over to the other side. You'll see we moved the blown up LS2. That's over in the corner under the workbench. The LT4 is still there, so that's still, where it's going to go. But we actually just recently had a Christmas party and decided to clean up the shop a bit. And yes, we finally have walking room. Hate to admit, I don't think I've cleaned this place up since we started working on the engine and the swap and the cylinder head and all that. And that was like 6 months ago. So it's a little weird having a relatively clean shop and just be able to walk around without stepping on stuff. So it's a little weird. So, and if you guys did see, all of my workbenches basically have crap on them. There's not much I could do to clean those off. And that is because we have a bunch of torn off pieces from the Corvette. That's kind of where everything ended up. I wish I had a way to kind of organize all those parts and put them somewhere safer, somewhat be a little bit more organized, but it is what it is. So yeah, that bench is full. That toolbox is full. I could clean that one off, and we actually have cleaned off a bunch of stuff over in that corner over there. Because if you guys had seen our last LT4 video, you'll remember that we got the cylinder heads bolted on. We got the Texas Speed timing cover and this top cover both installed. We also installed the water pump. So we just ended up having a lot of boxes that we threw out. So yeah, it's kind of nice getting my shop back. It's a little weird. In regards for today's video, we're actually talking about wiring, adapters, ECUs, and all that stuff. So you guys can see over here on the engine side, we do have the LS3 dry sump engine harness installed. No, we do not have the Nexus ECU in just yet. Tuned by Sean, the guy that's making the kit for the Corvette, the plug and play kit. That is not in yet. He's still waiting on parts from Haltech. So I do have an update. So that's the update on that. We just don't have it yet, and he's waiting for parts from Australia. So that's one thing. The second thing is I've talked with both Sean and my engine builder, and we really won't be able to run the Nexus because it's not coming with a harness. It's basically coming with just the ECU and then the CAN bus adapter harness that's going to plug into the stock, PCM connectors right here. So since we're not going to be able to run that, we have decided to go ahead and run the Rebel LS on the engine dyno. So yes, it won't be a totally unused system, but we can make all the adapters that we're going to need for that. So that's what we're going to do today. But on the engine dyno, which my machine shop does have one, we're basically be running the Rebel LS and whatever adapters we need to get that to work. And what we're going to need for both ECUs and harnesses is basically a couple things. So one is going to be the IAT sensor breakout right here. That's basically your MAP sensor. This isolates that. The second is going to be the LS9 MAP sensor over here. And then the other thing that we have is the fuel purge solenoid. I really don't think that will be built into the Rebel LS, so we may not have to worry about that. But I do want to make sure that the LS2 unit that we have, because again, this is a 2005, I want to make sure that extension harness will plug in from the 2005 to the 2011 harness. So there's that adapter, MAP sensor, the IAT breakout. All right, guys, if you can see behind me, this bench has been cleaned up a lot. We've cleaned up a little bit in there, and we've cleaned up over here a bit and over there. And that is because, so I'm looking for the extension harness for the throttle body as well as the fuel purge evap solenoid. So those are the only two I can't find. I've pretty much found everything else. I did want to show you something. This is the LSA LS9 MAP sensor. I've had this for a while. It plugs right into the stock engine harness, and then this is where all the extensions would go. You guys see that's the fuel purge solenoid. You guys can see that is the throttle body. And I am almost certain that those two harnesses are exactly the same between the LS2 and LS3. Looking at the throttle body, it looks like it is a 6-pin. I will have to double check that. Actually, I can look at the throttle body right here. Yeah, so this is our 112 millimeter from Kong. Yeah, that's a 6-pin. So I'm pretty sure those two harnesses will plug right in. I just have no idea where they are. And unfortunately, this is a issue of tearing this car apart like 6 months ago, putting stuff away, and I have no idea where I put it. So, yeah, so did want to show you that we will have to run an extension for the map sensor because the LS3 sticks basically up here at the front of the motor. And then as we showed earlier, it's in the back passenger side instead of being kind of on the front passenger side. So we have to run an adapter harness for that. I need to buy that. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was I do have a extension harness for the LS3 MAF. So you guys can see the male to female, just basically an extender over here. While that's good to have, that doesn't really resolve our problem. And what our problem is, you guys can see right here. So this is an LS2 female plug. You guys can see that right there. This is the LS3 MAF on the back. Then on the other end of this, this is our extension that we made for the lid. So this harness, I basically need to swap out this LS2 plug right here for an LS3 plug, and we should be good to go. So I've already found one. I think Michigan Motorsports sells one for like $9. So we'll go ahead and get that connector on the way. That way all I have to do is really just depin this, swap the connectors over, and then put it back in. Now, the pins themselves might be different. I'm not 100% sure if the pin design is the same between the LS2 and the LS3 plug. If it's not, that kit will come with the new pins. Basically, I just don't want to have adapter on adapter on adapter. So if we can just do the extension like we did with the IAT, the LS3 extension here with the breakout, and then have swap this LS2 to LS3. That's what I want to have. I don't want to have like multiple connectors where something can fail. So, and kind of like we showed you, I was just playing around with the stock engine harness, and this is an extra harness. If we decide to use it, I don't think we will. So that's pretty much all of the LS3 to LS9 conversion we're going to need to do is basically an extension for the map, swap out that connector on the MAF sensor, MAF, and then find my two extensions, the throttle body and that fuel purge solenoid. What we have here in my hand is basically a snipped E85 fuel sensor connector that we bought previously from DSX Tuning. We've modified it a bit over the years, but basically what this does is this takes the rear coil pack on the driver's side, gives it power ground. You plug this into the other side of the coil pack, and then that gives you all the power and ground you're going to need for the E85 sensor. And then this white wire over here, that basically will lead back to the stock ECU, or in our case, we'll run that back to the Haltech with the Nexus ECU. Another input we're going to be doing for the Haltech is fuel pressure. And if you guys can see over here, you guys can see the fuel pressure sensor coming off of the fuel pressure regulator. Now that sensor actually has power and ground and the input all going into the interior, because we ran that to our old Aeroforce gauge, which we had over on the driver's side switch panel right there. So I don't know if we're going to keep that running to the interior, because basically what I would have to do, we could keep the wire ground on the interior, but then I'd have to find a way to get the data signal back out from the interior out to the exterior and run it down over the ECU. Or what we could do is basically just unplug that sensor, go get a new pigtail, and run all the wiring directly to the ECU using this wire loom that we already have for the E85 sensor that basically goes behind the two cylinder heads. That's another thing I need to make a decision on. I don't know. I need to speak with the tuner, Sean, and see like, hey, what's the best thing to do? Because if we just need to feed inputs to the ECU, we can do that relatively easy. But if we have to run power, ground, and all that, that might be a little bit more complex. So that's just another thing. And our last additional input that we're going to be running is, I think I've shown this on the channel, I'm just not sure, is going to be this LowDoller Motorsport coolant pressure and temp sensor combo. As you can see, it is a metric 12 by 1.5. So that will basically bolt right into the cylinder head on the passenger side. And it's a coolant, temp, and pressure. So it goes up to 100 PSI and up to 500 degrees. So yeah, that is another thing. Now this one, we probably will route everything to the ECU because I don't have a power and ground for this. And kind of the last thing, we have a mess of the Haltech Rebel LS wire harness and all the stuff that it comes with. But basically, I was just trying to see what we're going to need. And the other reason I have it on the floor is because I thought maybe I'd stuck those two harnesses, those extension harnesses in here, but unfortunately I did not. So let's go ahead, get this mocked up on the car. We're just going to lay it in place. and kind of go over where I think everything needs to go. All right, guys, I have laid out the Haltech wire harness, and everything looks like it's going to work. The only thing I might have a problem with is going to be the IAT sensor. Here is the LS9 map sensor. I am not 100% sure this is going to have enough room because this has to be fed all the way to the driver's side rear. The one good thing is the way the Rebel LS comes, it actually is a jumper harness from the LS1, LS2 style. It converts it to the LS3 hardpoint here, but I do have that extension harness. So if we need to extend that, that won't be an issue because that will basically plug in right here. The fuel purge solenoid, we're not going to have to worry about that because honestly the Rebel LS doesn't come with it. As far as the throttle body, you guys can see this is a pretty long cable, and I think this will reach just fine. It just has to reach up to the front because I think we have it mounted this way. Actually, we could flip the throttle body. It won't matter on the dyno, but in the car it has to go one way. So, yeah. So I think with the long harness that they provide you, that'll plug right in. The only thing, like I was saying, that I think we need to be concerned about is going to be the air temp. The way this is routed, unfortunately, it's routed on the driver's side, and it's just simply not that long. Like, we're going to have to route this around the supercharger lid and then to the front of the passenger side. So I just don't think this one will have enough reach. So we may have to buy an adapter or an extension for this one. As they say, you learn something new every day, and today I learned that the Haltech, at least the Rebel LS, does not use a mass airflow sensor. MAF. So yeah, I was a little shocked when I was looking through the wire harness because I had opened that bag, but I had not taken the wire harness and kind of laid it out and looked at everything. So we may not be using a MAF sensor at all, at least on the engine dyno tune. So I'll be honest, I'm not even sure we're going to have to take our Common Performance, our carbon fiber intake. I think we might just put a velocity stack on the throttle body, something like that, and call it a day. Now for the car, I'm still going to go ahead and convert that one harness with the LS2 connector. I'll convert that to the LS3. But yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go on the Rebel LS. The only thing we're going to have to worry about is this IAT sensor. I just don't think it will have enough room. So yeah, basically the way that harness was ran, it was coming from the back of the driver's side, and that needs to go to the front of the passenger side. So I'll go ahead and look to see if they make any extension harnesses for the IAT. And if that's the only harness we have to buy to get this thing tuned, I'm okay with that. So that should about cover it for the wiring. We actually do have something to do to the supercharger lid. We'll get to that here in a minute. But, just have to do those 2 or 3 adapters and extensions and that new connector. And that's for 2 different ECUs and 2 different wiring harnesses. That ain't bad. We can take care of that off screen. Won't take too long, and we'll go ahead get all those parts ordered. So speaking of the lid, I do have one quick update. I don't think we've shown this on the channel before. Maybe we have, but this is going to be a Ballinger Motorsports fast reacting IAT sensor for the LS9 or the LSA lid. And this should swap right into the replacement of the factory one. The difference between this sensor and the GM one is basically this one just reacts a little bit quicker, has a faster reaction time, and also the new ECU from Haltech should be able to pick up on the quicker signal and all that stuff from this new sensor. Now, years ago, I tried to use a Rife IAT sensor that was supposed to plug right into the LS9 lid, but the problem is I have thicker cooling bricks from CNR, and when I was putting that in, the sensor basically smashed right into the side of the cooling brick and it broke. I emailed Motion Raceworks about that, and they had nothing really to say about it, and I was basically out like $50 for a sensor. So needed something that would fit in the stock location, and it has basically a stock design. You guys can see that right here. So let's go ahead and get this opened up. We will get the stock LS9 IAT sensor out. So we've got the stock IAT sensor out. Basically just use a crescent wrench. We're going to put this new one in, and the only difference I really see is it's colored differently. This one has a brown tip, this one has a white tip, and maybe there's a color reference guide out there to explain why it's a different color, and with our new powerful ECU that we're going to have, we should have no issues taking advantage of this. Now, I will show you a chart of the data that they want you to enter into the ECU because you do need to adjust for this. Ballinger Motorsports should have that on the website. I have the screen cap of that here. And yeah, so we'll have to enter that data into the Haltech when we get to that. All right, guys, we have our new IAT sensor on there, and that's pretty much going to be about it. Now, I actually do have a new set of fuel injectors to put in this thing, but we're going to leave these out because I just had these cleaned like probably about a year ago, and I just don't want those open to the shop air, the dust, and everything. So when we get ready to actually go ahead and dyno this thing, we'll take the fuel rails back out. We'll swap those bigger injectors in. I already have the data from FIC. And so that's another thing we're gonna have to do with data entry. It's going to be the injector information as well as the IAT sensor settings with that new faster one from Bollinger. All right, guys, quick little update before we go. I did manage to find my harnesses. This is the throttle body extension we were talking about. Here's the fuel purge solenoid extension. Yeah, I'm an idiot. They were underneath the car the whole time. So we tore this place apart looking for some harnesses. They were literally right at our feet. So it is what it is, but I was able to get a lot of my shop spaces clean. You guys can see behind me, I have not been able to see the rubber mat of this workbench in like 7 months. Yes, it's still a little messy right now, but for me, this is actually really clean. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And then I have rearranged some other stuff around here just to make stuff flow more easily. Unfortunately, in this big box down here, that is the power steering rack that we had in the Corvette. So it's just kind of a big long box sitting in the middle of the floor that we don't have much places we could put. So, all right, guys, that's pretty much gonna be it for today's video. We did a little bit of updates on the wiring on the car, did some research, found some parts, lost some parts. We swapped in that IAT sensor, and that's gonna be a wrap. So if you guys like today's video, hit that like button. If you wanna follow along with the continuing adventure of this 427, the 2650, and this Haltech swap, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys wanna help support the channel, check out all the links down below. I don't know what all we'll be able to include. Maybe we'll be able to include the link to Bollinger for that IAT sensor, maybe a link to the Haltech, maybe part numbers for both of those. We'll include all that down below. And if you guys need any 2005 C6 parts, we got a whole bunch of stuff for sale on the website. And that's BonecrrusherSS.com. We also have stickers, merch, t-shirts, SS parts, a couple other things. Check all that out on the website, and that's gonna be it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.